Hello YouTube, Glitchman here, and this one's going to be a bit different. So, recently I've been getting a bunch of people coming to me saying how much they enjoy my voice and how they prefer the videos where I'm just talking. It's not really loud gameplay or shooty bang bang or silence with gameplay and occasional speaking. And some of you even said, oh, you should start doing like a podcast or something. So I figured, fuck it, why not? I will do that, and this is the first episode of said podcast thing. This one is actually about a game that released recently called Godfall. I just noticed there's a crack in my glass. Anyway, and this episode is about a game that released recently called Godfall. Now, IGN reviewed this. They gave it a 6 out of 10 because of the story and stuff. The story bit I can agree with, because the story was a bit meh. It was pretty forgettable. Like, I kind of just blitzed through it. I even skipped some dialogue bits because I wasn't that interested. But I still actually love the game. Not because of the story and stuff, but because of the gameplay. I enjoy it. There's like a bunch of stuff you can do. I do agree with how they described, not IGN, but the developers, with how the developers described it as the Tinkerer's dream, with all the customization and stuff you can do. I do agree with that. There is a lot of customization you can do. And that skill grid thing in the augment constellations for the valor plates and the weapons and the items and everything, there's a lot of customization, and it's pretty nice. And another reason that I love it is the art style, like the art of everything, because people who know me know I do 3D design as a bit of a hobby. Mainly weapons, like swords and stuff, because that's what I'm better at. And I am a sucker for good weapon designs. And the designs of the weapons in this game are absolutely stunning to me. I love them. They're great. And, alright, bit of a cut there because I had to go help with grocery stuff. As I was saying, the weapon design, absolutely stunning to me, because each weapon has its own look. Like, sure, there are some similarities because it's types of weapons, but each one has its own look, its own distinctive look to it, and the look of it tends to match the name. Like, for example, the Carapace blade. There's like an image up on the screen for that. You can tell it actually looks like a carapace, like it has a carapace on it. And each weapon has been handmade in this, because it's not like Destiny where you get two guns that look exactly the same but have different names and completely different stats. If two weapons in this look the same, they have the same name and the same primary stat. And each weapon has its own lore and everything too, so it's really neat for those lore buffs with games who like to collect every bit of lore possible, because you can pick up these lore pages that are strewn about the world as you play, as well as the lore in the weapons. Because, like I said, each weapon has its own lore, and if I remember right, the Valor Plates have their own lore as well, which you can look at. And, yeah, so everything's handmade, and everything in this, to me, looks absolutely stunning. The weapons, the Valor Plates, the environments, hell, even the enemy design. The enemies piss me off at times, but they still look good. They are visually appealing. Now, I may be praising this a bunch, but I do have one gripe with this. Stun locking is a very, very potent issue in this game at times. I really noticed it back in the first time I did the Solaris Ascended fight. I've got footage of that fight up on the screen right now. It's not as bad as I did it the first time, because this is my second time doing it. But the first time, if I messed up even a single dodge near the beginning, I would get knocked down by these little, these laser things that would be coming from the sky. And I'd get up just to be hit and knocked down by another one, and that would just repeat over and over and over again until the attack ended. And I really had to push through that one, and I ended up dying and having to go go back in. Luckily, there's like checkpoints in boss health, which I really liked. Normally in boss fights, it'll be like, oh yeah, there was a phase change, and you have to do that again. Except for that recent expansion in Destiny 2 Beyond Light, there was one boss that I hated. I hated it with a passion because there were multiple phases that were a pain in the ass to do. And if you failed one, it doesn't matter if you were on the first one or the third one, if you failed one, you were back to like before the fight started. You have to do the whole fight over again. Whereas in Godfall, the major bosses, the ones that have like their health bar at the top of the screen, they have health checkpoints. So if you like take their health down to a certain point and you die, when you respawn, their health will be down to that point, and you can continue from there. So there's no like starting over the whole boss fight and doing that. And I really enjoyed that about it, because it's the whole game. It's quick and snappy. If you die, you right back in, and it doesn't take. You don't lose a whole lot of progress when you die, and that didn't really set well with some people I saw. Like, some people were just like, oh, it makes the game too easy and makes dying a non-issue. Whereas I actually kind of like it. Because other games, you die and then there's this huge, long you died screen, and then there's a lot of tracking through the same stuff you've already done to get back to where you were. Whereas this, you die and you're just a little bit further back. You can get straight back into what you were doing. And I actually really liked that about it. What else was there? Oh yeah, also, with how at the beginning of the video I mentioned IGN during this, couple things about that. One, I find it odd how a lot of people I come across, they take like IGN's word as like the word of God, to question it is heresy and all that. I really don't think that way. I actually kind of despise that thinking, because sure, it is nice to have more information on a game before you play it and like know other people's opinions, but people use it as like their hinging point for whether or not they get or try a game. Whereas I think if you look at a game and you think, oh hey, that would be cool to play, that's your prerogative to get the game or try the game in some capacity. You shouldn't like let other people heavily sway whether or not you get a game, because I know a lot of people who, leading up to a game's release, and like even a bit after, they were looking at this thing and, oh, this looks awesome, but they didn't get it because IGN gave it a poor rating. And that really bugs me. It's like, yeah, cool, opinions matter, and it's nice to have other people's opinions, but don't let them heavily influence your own. Have your own opinion, whether that's about games or something else. And yeah, like I was talking to a friend, he was talking about how like, oh, I'm like sucked into Godfall and everything, and he's just like, oh, you know, IGN gave it a 6 out of 10. I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. I enjoy the game. I really like the game. I have fun playing it because I like the gameplay, I like the loops, and I like the art style and everything. All those things keep bringing me back to it. And one thing I noticed they missed in their review was the only endgame thing they pointed out was the Dreamstones, which is replaying some story missions and hunts and everything. And they were just like, oh, it's just replaying the same story you've already been through, so, same forgettableness, and it's just with some slight twists. Really, I was playing Dreamstones while recording the B-roll for this, and I noticed those story missions from the story, they don't pop up all the time. It's not replaying every single story mission. Sure, they show up on occasion, but you've also got a choice of like a hunt or two to do instead of that story mission, in case you want to just do the hunt and not replay the story. Because the hunts, they take less time. They may give less rewards than doing that story mission, but they take less time, and you can get straight to you get to that boss fight you may want to do quicker. And they did cover the Dreamstones, but there's also that Tower of Trials that's been mentioned, like leading up to launch, that they didn't cover. I didn't manage to grab any footage of that because it didn't cross my mind while I was recording, and I kind of need to figure out where I would go to do that. So there's no footage of that in this B-roll. I will probably do like a separate video doing Tower of Trials, But yeah, that's there, and IGN didn't even touch that. So it's like, yeah, cool, you're this well-known, I don't fucking know, journalist group or company or whatever when it comes to games news, but you missed a part that could potentially be a crucial detail, because the Tower of Trials introduces a roguelike element into endgame, which is what roguelike stuff is what keeps a lot of people coming back. It creates replayability, and for a lot of people, that is why they play games a lot. And that's there, and IGN just skipped over it. They didn't touch it, from what I saw, because I was watching that video earlier today, and they didn't touch it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Godfall. I think it's a good game. Other people, not so much, because IGN, ooh, word of game gods, or whatever. But, like I said, I enjoy it. I like the art. I like the gameplay. I don't really like the story that much. It was pretty dry, and very predictable, too. And, like, from the very beginning, when it's just like, oh, do you think I'm going to betray you to become a god? My brain was like, yeah, you are. And then sure enough, that's exactly what Sanctum did. But yeah, like I said. So TLTR of this is, I think Godfall's good. I like the gameplay loops and the art and everything. Have your own opinions about these things. Don't let others like heavily sway yours, and like whether or not you try out a game you think you might like. If you think you might like, go for it. Try it out in some capacity. You do you, you know? But anyway, that's all for this one. I hope you enjoyed. If you joined it, feel free to leave a like. You could also leave a comment saying what you would like me to cover in the next one of these things, and I will try my best to cover it. So, thank you so much for watching, or listening, or whatevering, and I hope you have a good one.